The studio lights were warm, the kind that made everything look golden and safe, at least at first. Leanne Morgan sat across from Andy Cohen, her southern charm wrapped around every smile, every nod. Andy leaned back in his chair, that familiar twinkle in his eyes. Part mischief, part curiosity. The audience waited, the cameras blinked red, and somewhere behind the glass, a producer mouthed the countdown. 3, 2, 1. Leanne Morgan, Andy began, the queen of small-town humor herself, welcome. She laughed softly. Well, I don't know about Queen, Andy, but thank you, honey. I'm tickled to be here. The crowd chuckled. It was easy, warm, familiar, the kind of banter that made viewers feel safe in their living rooms. Before we begin, tell us where are you watching from, also subscribe. But safety is a fragile thing on live television. Andy crossed one leg over the other and tilted his head. So, Leanne, your comedy, it's very traditional. Big families, church on Sundays, the husband who can't find his socks. You ever worry that some of your material feels a little outdated? The air changed, barely noticeable but real. Leanne's smile dimmed just enough to show the steel beneath it. Well, Andy, she said, I don't think love or family ever go out of style. I talk about what I know. People laugh because they see a bit of their own lives in mine. Andy nodded, but he wasn't done. But you've built a whole career on the image of the perfect family. Don't you think that intentionally or not, it leaves some people out? Leanne shifted in her chair. The audience, sensing the tension, grew quiet. Andy, I don't write jokes to leave people out. I write about what's true for me. That's all any comedian does. Sure, Andy replied, leaning forward. But when someone with your platform talks about traditional values, it sends a message. You've said before that those values are important. Some would say you've implied they're under threat. That word, threat, hung in the air like smoke. Leanne's hands, which had been resting gently on her lap, clasped together. Her voice lowered, the sweetness replaced with something firmer. I never said they were under attack. I said they mattered to me. There's a difference between sharing your life and judging someone else's. Andy smiled politely, but his eyes were sharp. But Leanne, whether you mean to or not, your stories do send messages. That's the power of media, isn't it? Influence. Leanne let out a small breath, like someone trying not to lose her patience. Andy, you're twisting what I do. I'm not a politician. I tell stories about my husband, my kids, my neighbors. I talk about the things that drive me crazy and the things that keep me grounded. I'm not trying to change anyone's life. I'm trying to make them laugh. Andy nodded slowly as though he'd been expecting that. But laughter can change things too. That's what makes it interesting. When you make millions of people laugh about a certain way of life, you're shaping what they see as normal, what they see as good. For the first time all evening, Leanne's expression hardened completely. The motherly warmth was gone. Andy, she said, her voice low but steady, I need you to stop right there. The audience murmured. Even the cameras seemed to lean closer. Andy blinked. Excuse me? You're taking my stories and turning them into something ugly, she said. You're acting like I'm pushing an agenda, and that's not what I do. I'm not out here telling people how to live. I'm telling them how I've lived. There's a difference. Andy held up his hands, his trademark grin flickering. Leanne, I'm not attacking you. I'm just asking questions about responsibility, about perspective. No, she interrupted. You're trying to make a headline. A beat of silence stretched across the studio. You want me to fit into your little box of controversy because that's what sells, right? But I'm not here to be your soundbite Andy. I'm here because people find joy in what I do, and I won't apologize for that. Andy's smile faltered. That's not fair, he said softly. No, she replied. What's not fair is acting like being proud of your roots means you're shutting other people out. I've never said a hateful word about anyone. You want to talk about responsibility? Then maybe you should think about how you twist people's words to make good TV. The audience didn't move. For a moment, there was no show, just two people in the space between them. Andy looked down, then back up, visibly recalibrating. Leanne, I respect what you do, he said finally. But conversations like this are important. We live in a time where what people say on stage matters. Then maybe people should listen before they decide what it means, she shot back. Her accent was still soft, but her tone could cut glass. Because right now, all you've heard is what you want to hear. Andy exhaled slowly. "Do you want to keep going?" he asked. Leanne stood, smoothing her skirt with a trembling hand that betrayed more emotion than she'd shown. "No, Andy, I think we're done." And just like that, she turned and walked off set. The audience erupted, not in laughter, not even applause, but in stunned whispers. Andy sat there for a long second, the grin gone, his cue cards limp in his hand. Finally, he forced a smile for the camera. "Well," he said, voice a little unsteady, "that was unexpected." The red light above the camera flicked off. Silence followed, and somewhere behind the curtain, a door closed with the finality of a punchline that no one saw coming. Backstage, the air was heavy with whispers and shuffling crew members pretending to be busy. Leanne stood near the exit, one hand pressed against her temple, her breath sharp and uneven. A production assistant tried to hand her a bottle of water, but she waved it away gently. "Thank you, sweetheart. I just need a minute." Her voice trembled, but held steady enough to remind everyone she wasn't broken, just angry, hurt in a way she hadn't expected. Andy emerged moments later, still mic'd up, his producers surrounding him in a huddle of damage control. "We can cut around it," one of them whispered. "We'll frame it like a passionate debate." Andy didn't answer right away. He glanced toward Leanne, his face unreadable under the bright hallway lights. "She'll hate me forever if we air it," he said finally. "She already might," the producer muttered. Leanne heard him and turned slowly. "No, I don't hate you, Andy," she said, her voice calm but sharp as glass. "I just hate what this does to people like me. You turn sincerity into spectacle." Andy stepped closer, hands raised in surrender. "Leanne, it's television. You know how this works." "That's the problem," she replied. "I thought this was about my comedy, not your ratings." For a moment, they stood in the fluorescent hallway, the laughter from earlier replaced by an almost painful quiet. "You wanted to talk about family," she continued, softer now. "Well, here's what family teaches you. Respect, listening, understanding someone before you pick them apart. Maybe if you tried that on your show, people would tune in for more than just the train wrecks." Andy didn't respond, and for once, he didn't have a clever comeback. He looked smaller somehow, stripped of his usual armor of charm and wit. "I didn't mean to upset you," he said finally. "I know," Leanne sighed, her shoulders dropping. "But you did." A long pause followed. Somewhere, a studio door creaked open, and the sound of applause from the next segment filtered in. Fake. Pre-recorded? Perfect. Leanne looked toward the sound, then back at Andy. "You'll do what you need to do," she said, turning to leave. "Just remember, I came here to make people laugh, not defend who I am." She walked out before anyone could stop her, heels clicking across the tile like punctuation marks in a story she didn't want to finish. Andy watched her go, jaw tight, the echo of her steps fading. One of the producers leaned in again. "So, what do we do now?" Andy rubbed his face with both hands, then looked at the camera monitor still showing the empty stage. "We air it," he said finally. "All of it." The next day, the clip went viral before the show even finished airing. Social media exploded. Hashtags, debates, think pieces. Some praised Leanne for standing her ground. Others accused her of being defensive, close-minded, out of touch. Andy's fans called it brave journalism. Leanne's called it a setup. The internet did what it always does. It chose sides. But somewhere in Tennessee, far from the noise, Leanne sat on her porch with a cup of coffee, watching the sun climb over the hills. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from friends, agents, reporters. She ignored them all for a while. Finally, she opened her notes app and typed something new for her next show. "Sometimes," she wrote, "you try to tell a joke, and the world tries to turn it into a fight. But you can't stop telling stories just because someone else doesn't understand the punchline." She smiled to herself, small but real. The wind rustled through the trees, and for the first time since that night, she laughed. A quiet, private laugh that belonged only to her. The laughter faded, replaced by the still hum of early morning. Leanne set her coffee down and stared at the horizon, sunlight painting the sky the same soft gold as the studio lights that had turned harsh just a day ago. Her phone buzzed again, this time a call from her manager Jim. She hesitated, then answered. "You're trending everywhere," Jim said without preamble. "Every outlet wants a statement. Good Morning America, The View, Fox, CNN, you name it." Leanne sighed. "Of course they do. They don't want me, Jim. They want the clip." "Yeah," he admitted, "but you've got momentum. We could use this. Turn it around, own the story." She looked out at her quiet yard, the dew still clinging to the grass. "Own it." That's what Andy said about his show. I don't want to own a fight gym. I just want to make people laugh again. Jim went quiet for a moment. Leanne, you didn't do anything wrong. People are seeing that. Some of the biggest names in comedy are backing you online. Leanne gave a faint chuckle. That's nice, but it's not what I care about. The folks who come to my shows, they don't care about hashtags. They just want to laugh, to feel better for a while. That's what I want too. Jim's tone softened. So what do you want me to tell the networks? Tell them no, she said. Tell them I'm going back on stage. That evening, the small theater in Knoxville filled with people, some longtime fans, others just curious about the woman who'd walked off Andy Cohen's set. When Leanne stepped onto the stage, the applause was deafening. She stood there a moment, letting it wash over her, then smiled the way she always did before a joke. Well, she began, I guess y'all saw me on TV this week. Didn't exactly go as planned, did it? Laughter rippled through the room, warm and knowing. She grinned wider. I tell my husband all the time, honey, if I ever get in a fight on national television, don't you dare come save me. Just bring popcorn. The crowd roared, and for the first time since that interview, she felt free again. You know, she continued, pacing slowly, it's funny. People keep asking me what I meant by traditional values, and I tell them, it's not politics. It's about kindness, showing up, loving your people, and remembering to laugh when everything feels upside down. That's it. No conspiracy, no secret message, just life. The audience clapped, some even standing. Leanne paused, her eyes glistening. We live in a world that loves to twist everything, but laughter. Laughter is still the one thing they can't ruin, and I'm not done laughing yet. Back in New York, Andy Cohen sat alone in his office, the sound from the latest episode playing quietly on his monitor. The viral segment was still all anyone could talk about. Public opinion had split, but something unexpected was happening. People were talking not about the fight, but about what it meant to listen, to respect, to disagree without tearing each other apart. He leaned back in his chair and replayed the moment when Leanne stood up, the look on her face just before she walked away. It wasn't anger, he realized now. It was disappointment. The kind that hits deeper than outrage. He turned off the screen, sat there for a long moment, then reached for his phone. Hey, he said when his producer answered. Find out when Leanne's next show is. Maybe it's time we made things right. The next week, Leanne got an envelope in the mail. No cameras, no producers, just a handwritten note. You were right, it read. I listened back. I wasn't hearing you. I'm sorry. If you ever want to come back, not as a guest, but as a friend, I'd be honored. She folded the letter and smiled. Maybe some people could still learn, she thought. Maybe that was the real story. She looked at her upcoming tour poster on the wall, bright and full of laughter, and whispered to herself, all right, back to work. The lights of the stage waited for her somewhere down the road, steady and forgiving. Weeks passed, and the noise began to fade. The headlines found new scandals to chase, new faces to dissect, but Leanne's name lingered in the corners of the internet, whispered with respect instead of mockery. Her ticket sales doubled, her social media filled with messages from people who saw a bit of themselves in her. Tired mothers, quiet families, anyone who'd ever felt misunderstood for living simply. One afternoon, she was in her kitchen, the smell of cornbread filling the air when her daughter called. Mama, did you see what Andy posted? Leanne laughed softly. I don't spend much time online, baby. What did he say? He put up a clip of your show in Knoxville, her daughter said, excitement in her voice. He wrote, sometimes the best interviews happen after the cameras stop. Leanne paused, the corners of her mouth lifting. Well, she said, maybe he finally learned to listen. Later that night, she sat on her porch again, a familiar cup of coffee in her hands. Stars scattered above her like freckles in the dark. The cicadas hummed, steady as her breathing. Her husband came out and sat beside her, holding a plate of warm pie. You ever think about going back on his show? He asked, half teasing. She smiled. Maybe one day, but next time, I'll bring the questions. He chuckled, the sound soft and low. You handled yourself just fine. I didn't handle anything, she said thoughtfully. I just told the truth. Sometimes that's all you can do. Her phone buzzed again, but she ignored it, leaning back in her chair. Across the country, Andy Cohen was sitting in his own living room, watching her Knoxville performance again. This time, he didn't see the argument. He saw the grace, the humor, the way she could hold a crowd without bitterness. He'd built a career on poking at people's armor, but Leanne had reminded him what it looked like when someone refused to wear any. He smiled faintly and clicked off the TV. "Good for you, Leanne," he whispered to himself. Back in Tennessee, Leanne finished her coffee, the night air cool against her skin. She closed her eyes and thought about how strange it all was. The way one uncomfortable moment could change everything. But maybe that was life. Maybe you didn't choose the moments that defined you. You just chose how to stand in them. A month later, she took the stage again, this time in front of a sold-out crowd in Chicago. The energy was electric, thicker than usual. When the cheers finally died down, she leaned into the mic and said, "You know, y'all taught me something. You can't please everybody. And honestly, thank goodness for that, because trying to would be exhausting." The audience laughed, loud and free. "Here's the thing," she continued, her drawl steady and genuine. "Everybody's got a story. Mine's got casseroles, church potlucks, and a husband who thinks he can fix anything with duct tape. Yours might look different, but at the end of the day, if we can all laugh together, then we're doing all right." The applause that followed was thunderous, not the polite kind that fills a room, but the kind that feels like love. In the wings, her tour manager wiped away a tear. Backstage after the show, Leanne sat alone for a moment, soaking it all in. The chaos, the controversy, the redemption, it had all led back to this. Not fame, not attention, just laughter. Her assistant walked in, holding a bouquet of flowers with a small note tucked inside. She pulled it out and read, "Keep telling your truth. It matters more than you know. AC." Leanne smiled and set the note aside. She looked in the mirror, adjusted her hair, and whispered, "Bless his heart." Outside, fans waited in the cool night air, laughing and talking about the show. Somewhere out there, people were still arguing online, but it didn't matter anymore. Leanne had reclaimed her voice, not by fighting louder, but by staying exactly who she was. And when she stepped outside to greet her audience, the cheers rose again, not for the controversy, not for the headlines, but for the woman who walked through fire and came out shining, still laughing, still kind, still herself. If you like this video, then hit the subscribe button.